better? Presenting, good afternoon again, presenting the unneeded Eric Andrei with the talk Plone and PyTest, Tips and Tricks. Applause for him, please.
Okay, because I truly believe in recycling, I lived in Germany for a while, and I'm going to do this only in English because my brain, if I go back to Portuguese, probably won't come back, or it's going to be, I'll try to speak in Italian or Spanish. So if you need something in Portuguese, just ask the question and I can stop. And I believe in recycling. I'm recycling some slides from last year. So Plone love tests. Yay! Testing with Plone is something that goes from a long, long time. The first test was committed back in October 2002 by Sidney da Silva. He's not here, but Shiru can send a message to him. And we use many different things over the years. Unit test, and then unit test 2. Import unit test 2 as unit test. And robot framework, Selenium, Cypress, and Playwright, and whatever. And now I'm talking about PyTest. Why I'm talking about PyTest? Because ich liebe PyTest, okay? It's a taste acquired when you code modern Python, and it's simple, it's Pythonic. If you do not know what Pythonic means, just believe it's cool, trendy, and that's the thing you need to do. If you understand what I'm saying, is basically unit test was based on JUnit, and it looks like Java. You need to learn the whole framework to write tests, and honestly, that kind of, for instance, one of the things, there's assert something, and then assert something else, and then one is deprecated, and then it's pain in the ass to handle this. What is important, PyTest, different from unit tests, we relies heavily on dependency injection, and that can be kind of scary and challenging at first, because all of a sudden you're adding parameters to the test function, and these parameters come from nowhere. You put in there is like Wayne's World, build and they will come. You basically put in there and then something happens. And sometimes you make a typo and nothing happens, and then you're like, what? There's a large ecosystem of plugins, and I strongly rely on some of them. There's a support for unit tests. You can run everything you have with unit tests just running with PyTest. And most important decision of all, there's a Brazilian maintainer. And now I'm going to just open a little side talk. I am a huge fan of the guy, like Bruno, and huge fan. And I went to one of the regional events in Brazil, Python Sul, the one organized by Talita. Hi, Talita. And I was there. She's not here. I'm waving to the camera, Mikael. So that was it. And I was there, and okay, everyone, I was taking pictures with Shiru, with Hamiro. It was lovely. When I come back, someone posted a picture of the guy. He was there as well, and I was like, oh my God. And then I was basically being a fan over Mastodon, because that's a thing. And I was like, oh my God, I want to talk to you. And I have no idea. I could even have shaken hands with you and no idea. And he's like, oh, no problem. Next time you're here, let's go out, and so on. And this guy has been maintaining PyTest for quite a long time. I believe at least 10 or 12 years. So it's someone we want to talk to, because maintaining open source projects, and this is, of course, I'm not looking at Moritz and everyone in the Plone community that keep doing that, but maintaining open source project is something that's really stressful. So anyone that has been doing that for quite a long time deserves to be studied, and we should pay beers and try to find out how can they do it. But why PyTest and not unit test? Besides all the, oh, it's cooler and so on. Less is more. Okay, on the right we have unit test. Yeah, right, unit test. On the left, we have pytest, and it's doing exactly the same. Pytest have some shortcuts we can use, and also it's less verbose and it's easier to get started than unitest, because it's basically simple Python code when, and then you simply add assert something and that's it. Okay, and Plone loves pytest. First of all, that was something, since I came back to the community back in 2019. I was, oh, I want to use pytest because I work in some startups in Germany. Every time I had to write any Python code, I use pytest to test it, and I got addicted, especially because of the plugins and integrations and so on. Our good friends of the Guillotina framework, they use that. They maintained for a while some plugins for pytest, so I was used to it. And coming back to Plone Core, to Plone and then to Plone Core was kind of painful because, oh my God, I need to relearn everything from unit test. Uh, and then I believe Godefroy or someone, no, it's not my time yet, please. Don't. So someone mentioned like, oh, GoSet has been doing that for a while. They have a solution. And then, as I do every single time, every time I want to do something and I have no clue how to get started, what do you do? Really, I want participation. It's Friday. Go on. When you have no idea how to start something, you want to do something, you have no idea, what do you do? Exactly. You talk to David Glick. David, can you help me? And then David Glick goes there and, okay, man, and write something. And all of a sudden, I start building a pytest plugin basically to support Plone. It's built on top of now PyTest because GoSet is no more, and they moved the code base to a new repository. It provides some fixtures and helpers, and in here I want to say that most of those fixtures, they could have been improvements to Plone.api, but it's harder to write code to Plone.api, so I dump it in here just to help test. There are things to handle vocabularies, things to handle if a product installed or not, and to install, and so on and so forth. And it's already the full implementation on any new cookie Plone template project. So when you start a cookie Plone, PPX run cookie Plone project or backend done or whatever, you're going to get the pytest in there. Really simple one. And it's a growing adoption. And there's a almost perfect Venn diagram. It's where I touch any package I touch, I go and try to convert to pytest. And we already have two core distributions, core packages, Plone distribution and Plone export import. And it's a learning experiment. Even though it's stable, it's a learning experiment to see new test cases and try to adapt them to pytest. And this talk is about this. It's kind of sharing some of the knowledge. And I plan over the next few months get the testing Plone training and add in there as many examples as I can, just so you can get started and understand how to be productive. I would like to highlight two in here. Past plugins.key cloak groups or past plugins or IDC, they have the same feature, but past plugins key cloak groups. And I want to mention also collective blog. I believe they use and abuse pytest in the most explorative way. For key cloak groups and for the OIDC, we use a plugin for pytest that actually, oh, I'm going to run a test. Then spin up, run a Docker Compose, spin up key cloak with Postgres database, and then I can run the tests, see if everything is working, and then tear down. And you can parameterize that, which is great. And for collective blog, there's tests for permissions and if things are in place or not. So I highly recommend you take a look at these two packages. And I'm going to share some tips and tricks. And maybe I'm going too fast and it's hard to basically start live coding, but if I go way faster, questions, and then we can discuss a bit. Golden rules. There are some caveats for using pytest at the moment, and we do what we can. The first thing is, if you're testing Plone code, if you're testing things that need to have a Plone site in there, or things that will build a Plone site. So, oh, I want to test my new content type. You need to wrap your tests in a class. Okay, that's because there's some caching mechanism in pytest, zope pytest, or pytest zope, or whatever. Yeah, you know, that kind of does not, that will not tear down everything from one test to the other. So we try that. We tried even, oh, what if we actually change and use some of the module fixtures, or define different scopes for things, and the result was not the same. So for now, as David Glick has other important things to do, just believe in this. Go with the classes. And I have this approach of always in a class that's going to test a bunch of things to reduce the amount of code I use. I add the first method is going to be something called either setup or whatever, that's going to receive portal as a parameter. Portal, and in here you can see there's get FTI portal, and there's something else. We do not talk about that for a moment, but get FTI and portal are fixtures provided by pytest Plone, meaning get FTI, I say, okay, get the FTI for this content type. It already does all the get utility, whatever needs to be done, and give you in here. So you see in the line, it's self.fti equals get FTI, and I pass the content type. So I have the FTI in here. I can say, oh, is this really an FTI? Yes, factory type information. Yes. Oh, I need to create something, use that. It's in here. And portal gives you the Plone site that's created to run the tests. And if you do not call portal, or if you do not call one of the fixtures that actually build the portal, like the integration or functional fixture, you do not have the portal is not going to be created. So you can choose when to create a Plone site, populate it, and so on. That's really, really important, makes a difference in terms of performance. You can kind of control when to build something and when not to do anything. If you're testing helper code, and in here is an example I give in my trainings, we create a validator for email, but oh, in Plone we already have a validator for email. But what I do, I need to showcase what you can do with validators. I say, oh, but let's restrict the emails only to a given domain. In this case, it's, oh, plone.org. If you add an email that's not from plone.org, it's not going to happen. It's going to fail. And it's a simple function. It does not need to have Plone around. It's just, in the end, is a glorified regex, I think. And then you test this. You do not need to instantiate Plone or even create instantiate Zope, so it's really fast. And I always use something here, that's the parameterize, because behind scenes, there's a package to do that for unit tests. It's called parameterize as well. But doing this, instead of one test, I'm actually running, in this example, 4 different tests. So it's a good way for you. For instance, if I want to test permissions, who can create a content type, I can simply create a parameterize and say, oh, this row it's yes or no, true or false. This row, true or false. This row, true or false, and have the same boilerplate of code, and it runs. The advantage of this over the common use case, the common way of doing that in unit test, that's basically you have one test and then you loop inside, is that you have 4 different tests. If one fail, you still run all the other ones. You do not break there. So you can try to understand, and then you can pinpoint, and then you can filter. Oh, I just want to filter tests that when they're running with this parameter. Also, leverage conftest.py. I'm not going to details about how pytest work, but conftest.py is something that pytest looks for to load code. So I want to have a fixture that's shared by all the codes in every single test file in my code base. I create a conftest.py on the top level. One example. Remember we had in here, we had blogs payload. See there? Blogs payload. I know it's hard to see, but it's in there, believe me. Blogs payload is actually a fixture from pytest. It's a function that returns a dictionary with payload data for you to create the blog content type and everything that's related to it. So this is going to be used in many different places in my code base, so I put on the top level. And then I can do something else. I can create, for instance, a REST API folder, add a conf test in there. By default, if we ask for the portal fixture, this fixture relies, is the portal inside the integration. If we talk about the old unit test, is the integration layer, right? So if I want to test REST API, what do I need to do? I need to spin up a ZOP, and then I use a request-like library to test everything. So we actually have a fixture for that that's functional. So in this thing here, I can do something else. I can simply go there. And this is the example. Instead of using the provided portal, I go in that folder, in that conf test, and I say, first thing, get me the functional fixture, and then create content type is content tree is another fixture I have in this project. And then I start with, oh, portal equals functional portal, and then transaction manager, create the contents, sends the portal, test run, and then I remove everything. Honestly, this is more like to showcase what we can do. These fixtures can be generators, so everything you run before yield runs before the test starts, and then after yield is when the test is the equivalent to set up and tear down, okay? Another thing, and this is going to be on pytest Plone really soon, is, oh, I want to create I want to run tests for REST API, and I want to already have the users in there. I want to say, okay, I want to run this test as an anonymous user. You do something. Run this as a manager. You do something else. I use this pattern of having a request factory, and based on that, I just get the session and add authentication headers there. So another example. This is going there. It's going to be kind of a helper to the relative API, relative session that we use heavily on Plone REST API. And also, really trust and love pytest plugin. There are hundreds of plugins for pytest. There are things that, oh, let's run the tests out of order to see if my tests are real or if I'm leaking stuff from one test to the other. Or try to, oh, you have many cores? run them in parallel. Or one plugin is basically code coverage. You can enable it. And there's one that's the, I believe it's pytest Docker, that allow us to basically do something like this. Yeah, I need to come really close because small letters, bad glass. So key cloak service actually starts. It's going to in here starts. I believe in somewhere above it. There's a fixture that tells me how to start Keycloak, and then I get the Keycloak service, and then I get the URL of Keycloak in there, and then I can feed that to another fixture. And this is interesting because you can basically use one fixture, and then the next one uses the result of the first one, and so on and so forth. And in here, I use that in both past plugins OIDC and past plugins Keycloak groups to say, okay, Plone, these are the configuration you're going. This is the configuration you're going to use to talk to Keycloak, right? It goes there, fills everything, and then I can run with it. Some examples. The first thing is the profile in the latest version? This is something that some colleagues at Kit Concept, they hate because, oh my God, I have to change the metadata and then I have to change in here. Yes, because I don't know about you guys and girls, but I was bitten by that many, many times. I go create the upgrade step, I do everything, and guess what happens? I forgot to change the metadata, and then there's an upgrade step that leads to nowhere, and whatever you do, the upgrade step is there. And that actually happened with Plone.voto a few times already. So there's some dumb tests that are really important, even though, oh, it's copy and paste and find and replace. Yes, but then we avoid breaking the user experience. It's quite simple. I use a fixture called profile last version that basically goes to portal setup, gets the portal setup, and based on that, I get for that given profile and return the version. Test if the package is installed. These two come by default in any cookie Plone template project. Test if the add-on is installed, because by default, when I go and create the portal, it already installs the default profile, and then I can, oh, is it really installed? Oh, but is there a case where it won't be installed? Oh yes, you forgot to add something on configure.html, you're not loading the test, and so on. Or in here, let's see if the dependencies will be installed. I have in my metadata.xml a bunch of dependencies, Plone Voto, Barceloneta, and collective forms, form support, and whatever. That's when I install my package, I want all of them to be installed as well. This is a simple test to check that. And you see in here, I'm showing you basically parameterize. I'm creating many. It's kind of, oh, that's so cool. I have hundreds of tests in my code base. Yes, but are meaningful tests, even though it's kind of cheating because there's just a bunch of lines of code and then you're passing some variables there. Another one, how do I test and install? Remember I talked about auto use, or do not remember if I talked or just thought I did. So I can basically tell to any fixture, like, okay, auto use. So if the fixture is in a file, it's going to be used by every single test in that file. If the fixture is on the conf test level, it's going to be used by every test that's under that conf test. In this case, this fixture is called for every test on the uninstall. So I install, I get the portal. The portal is already with my product installed, but I want to test and install. So the first thing I do in here is uninstall the product, and then I run my tests. I kind of remove the other test that we have by default is test if the browser layer is gone, right? But then you can have other cleanup code that could be here as well. Examples for FTI and factory. Test FTI, see if the FTI we got when we use get FTI is actually an instance of Dexterity FTI. I know there are cases it could be something else. I hope they get maybe comments. No, comments is not Dexterity, right? But yeah, but I'm not 100% sure of. But in this case, just test. I saw this test in many places, and I was like, okay, let's keep doing. And test the factory. So I'm going to create an object. Yeah, I'm creating an object with this factory and make sure it's not known and make sure then it's an instance of the content type I'm testing, right? It's boilerplate is simple, but it gives results, especially when you're copying paste stuff. It goes a long way. And then one I really like is behaviors. I want to test if some behaviors are available. There are two possible use case scenarios for that. One is I'm creating a new content type and I want to make sure that I'm including the right behaviors. So I test everything here. There's also the variant of this test that will have also a second parameter that expected value. Oh, I also want to make sure that I'm not using Plone.basic or Plone doubling core because I'm writing my own. So you can add this. But one case is to, on the each content type, you make sure they have the right behaviors. And if you have a package, an add-on that's actually providing you behaviors, and by default you're going to install this in some content types, you go in there and say, okay, let's test if this behavior is applied in there. There's another thing that I've been doing with REST API. Oh, I also want to make sure that my new behavior is going to be serialized in the correct way. So I believe it's in collective blog, we have this test. And I'm going also to add, I use REST API to basically get me the result, get me the schema that we are going to use and see if the fields are there. And if I want to test validation and so on, I use it through REST API. Also content, to create content types. There are many approaches. There's one in here that shows two different functions, one to see if it works and another fails. Both of them could be parameterized. Imagine you're creating a content type that can only be added in a certain area of your site. That usually is the case when you have a policy package being used. For instance, the conference site, I do not want to add a sponsored database in any other place other than the root, the language root folder. If it's somewhere else, it's a problem. I need to fix that. So you can basically add tests for this kind of stuff. And another one, indexing. Oh, I added a new indexer. So test if the indexing works, and if basically create the content type, change the value, do a catalog search, see if the result is there or not, and play with it. And of course, you can also parameterize, especially if you have a situation where you have some kind of type conversion. Oh, even though the value on the original content type is going to be like text line, I want for some reason these to be fed into the subject. That's a keyword index, so you can do this kind of testing. Another announcement, Plone test 1.0 is coming. I want people that are willing to. By the way, who's in here is already writing tests with pytest? pytest Plone, by the way. Who in here is basically writing testing packages that I changed everything because it's going to be pytest. No? Oh my God, I'm so happy. I was thinking Mauro would say, okay, because of pass plugin ODC. But in general, what I want to share with you is Plone pytest is mature right now. It works in 3.8, 3.9, 3.10, 3.11, 3.12. But for some reason, and I did not have the opportunity to talk to Bruno in Florianopolis, for 3.9, the tests are failing. The tests for pytest. So we have no idea. Oh, also, we have one fixture called generate MO that, guess what? Make sure you have your PO files translated. So when you want to test vocabularies and translations, when you want to make sure the translations are in sync, this is a fixture you want to use, probably adding to your to the auto use fixture. So I highly recommend. And this is the one that's failing on 3.9. And guess what? I talked to David. David looked, Sivers looked, and we have no idea. Have no idea. I tried many different permutations of the problem, and I gave up because it works on 3.10 and 11 and 12 and so on. But Plone pytest is really stable and can be used. I plan to sprint on Plone pytest tomorrow to make the 1.0 release, and I plan to add some of the things I have in some projects as fixtures here. The whole idea is to make you write more tests with less code. I see some people in here that I gave trainings this year, like mastering Plone trainings and so on. And I usually say, unless you are part of the core of the Plone community, most of the time, if you're doing it right, in the backend, you're not writing a bunch of Python code. You're writing configuration because you're actually integrating add-ons and setting configuration with, oh, this portal is going to use this email server, or it's going to have this default content and so on. So you write a bunch of configuration and you write a bunch of tests to make sure the configuration works. And being that the case, I usually say that most of my Plone projects, especially the ones here in Brazil or my personal ones, I'm writing XML, lots of generic setup stuff, and I'm writing pytest code. That guarantees that whatever I'm doing, it's actually ending up correctly in production. I would like to thank you for being here, for watching this talk. These are actually my social networks, and these are lovely penguins. Unfortunately, Franco just left because that's in there for him. These are in Ushuaia, Tierra del Fuego. So we can do an end of the world sprint there sometime, just saying. And I'm opening for questions. If you do not have, I want to see you on the sprints tomorrow. If you're getting drunk tonight and not coming to the sprints, talk to me. Okay?
Thank you, Erico. A round of applause for Erico, please. If anyone have any questions for Erico, just raise your hand. Okay.
We still have time, finally.
You missed the upgrade profile number because you are not using Plone CLI that increments it automatically.
Actually, yes, that's a very good point. And
but-
I talked to Mike about that we need to update every single template in there. But yes.
Anyway, that was not the question. Do you know of any problem running tests with pytest Plone in Python 3.12?
No,
Because I have a project that I have tests with pytest Plone in 3.11 that run correctly, and the same tests in the other project which casually I have just found that is running 312 that failed miserably.
Okay, I want to see that because no, I do not know. One thing I saw happening is I'm trying to remember what was it. Oh, products membrane.
No,
I had
that's not the
had
case.
to do
That's
some.
not the case.
Yes,
No.
I was doing. There's some old Zope products that you actually need to correctly load on the testing.py. So
No, it's the basic test of is product installed.
Whoa, that's strange.
Yeah.
I want to take a look.
Okay.
Another question. If there are no questions, then I think everyone is excited for the next talk. I would like just to give you one just closing here. You see, we are actually in intermediate step because what we're doing is leveraging everything we have from Plone app testing or Plone testing to use pytest. We know that the best possible way talking to people that actually work with pytest would be to rewrite everything and start the server and blah 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 inside pytest, inside a fixture. But that takes time, and after some time playing with the Zope inners, I really would like to thank whoever touched the code on Plone app testing and Plone testing and Zope testing, because to make Zope work like in a controlled way in a sandbox, it's hard. Oh my God, it's hard. And to clean up the thing between one test and the other, it's even harder. So I praise, and I'm going to pay a beer to whoever proves they had the idea to implement stuff in there. Thank you. You saved my life.
So thank you, Érico, again. Thank you, everyone. A round of applause for Érico, please.